What's this? Looks like a tablet. Feels like a tablet. Kind of smells like a tablet too. What the heck is this?
Let's talk about the iPad Pro. So the thing Apple does with its mobile devices very well is make the hardware and software work in tandem so well that they can get away with giving you lower specifications because the end product is good and the results are on par with your Android equivalents, which is why if you look at an Android phone, it might have better specifications, but the iPhone with its lower specifications is probably going to hold its own anyway. That is until now. With the iPad Pro, Apple seems to have decided to give it the beans. They've equipped it with an M1 processor, the same as you would find in your MacBook Pro. It's an 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU. It's fantastic. They've given it a 13-inch screen, OLED, Retina, HDR. They've even given it 8GB of RAM, upgradable to 16GB of RAM if you go for the 1TB storage option. Now you're thinking, that's fantastic. I can get a 13-inch screen just like the MacBook Pro, an M1 processor just like the MacBook Pro, and 16 gigs of RAM. You see where I'm going with this, right? Basically, take my money. Sure, that'll be $1,800. Thank you very much. Okay, what if we tone it down? What if we keep the 13-inch screen but tone it down to 8GB of RAM? How about that? Sure, that's between $1,500 and $1,600. Okay, what if we go for the 11-inch iPad and keep the 16 gigs of RAM so that we have the specifications but we'll make do with a smaller screen? Okay, that's $1,500. At this point, if you're asking yourself the question, how much laptop can I get for this much money? Then yes, absolutely. That is 100% the right question to ask. And the thing about the iPad Pro is that as we go through all the features, similar questions keep cropping up. Take for example, the camera. The rear cameras are what Apple calls the Pro camera set. And what this means is it's upgraded from the old iPads and the iPad Air to something that's very similar to what you have in your iPhone. It can take 4K 60 frames per second video, image stabilized, video stabilized, all that goodness. But when was the last time you saw someone whip out an iPad to take a photo or a video? I'm guessing almost never. And this is because if you've got a phone in your pocket, then chances are the cameras are going to be as good or better, which means it's far more convenient just to use your phone. And if you want to edit those images, you could always transfer it to your iPad, or you could transfer it to any laptop you have, either via AirDrop or by wire, and you could work on the images anyway. So why have an iPad Pro? Okay, let's talk about the front camera instead. The front camera is a whole lot better than the laptop front camera, which is important these days because Zoom calls and meetings and so on. I agree. But there are so many ways to make your phone work like a webcam for your laptop now that argument just doesn't hold good anymore. And if you're wondering about that center stage feature, which makes it look like the camera follows you around, well, if you've got any laptop with an NVIDIA RTX GPU, which you will have at this price point, then there's a free software called NVIDIA Broadcast that does exactly the same thing. So again, why have the iPad Pro? Let's move on to the screen. It's got an OLED screen, which is lovely, high contrast ratios. It has a max peak brightness of 1600 nits and it's a Retina display. All good things. It's also got 4 speakers instead of the 2 stereo speakers you find on the iPad Air and your usual MacBook Pros. Speakers are rated for Dolby Atmos, which I would take with a pinch of salt. There's probably some kind of surround virtualization, but it's not going to be the full Dolby Atmos experience. Having said that, Apple does very good small speakers in their laptops, in their iPads, which means it's going to be very enjoyable to watch your Netflix or your favorite YouTubers. But if I was at home, why wouldn't I just go and watch it on my 4K TV? Or if I was on the move and if I had a laptop, then why wouldn't I watch my content on the laptop with a nice pair of earphones that I bought from the money I saved by not buying the iPad Pro? Again, what purpose does the iPad Pro really serve? There is one feature, however, that sets it apart from the pack, and that is the ability to use the iPad Pro as a digital canvas. It's compatible with the 2nd generation Apple Pencil, which is a lovely device, and you can use it to sketch, design, draw, and take notes. And the handwriting recognition is fantastic. But you could also do that with the $500 iPad Air. So what purpose does the iPad Pro serve, and who is it for really? I honestly gave this a lot of thought and I came up with an answer that frankly surprised even me. At first I thought it would be good for the professional because it's, the iPad Pro. So maybe someone who does designing work on the go, and maybe you want a little tablet like device that you can carry around and draw while sitting in the park or something like that. But again, you could do that with an iPad Air. I think what Apple's tried to do is to make a device that does everything. That tries to replace your TV, it tries to replace your laptop, it tries to do a whole bunch of things and therefore appeal to a lot of people. But what it's ended up doing is actually appealing to a very small niche of people. Now, hear me out. If you're a student or a young professional with a limited budget, and you want a nice TV and you want a nice laptop and you want something to take your notes on, but you don't have the money to spend on each of those devices, then maybe if your productivity requirements are not very high, word processing, little Excel, a little PowerPoint, some research work, maybe some light image and video editing even, then the iPad Pro might just be the device for you. Because yes, it is an expensive device, but for someone who is on a budget and wants it to do all of these things together, it actually might be good value for money. You can take it to class, you can take notes, you can come back and do your research work. It's got a big enough screen, you can attach a keyboard and a mouse to it. You can do a lot with this device. Under $2,000 will get you a device that pretty much does it all while saving space at home. It's at this point I realized that it's not the device's fault. It's actually Apple's fault. See, what Apple's done is it's named the device wrong. It shouldn't be called the iPad Pro. I'm not sure what it should be called. But the Pro moniker is what really leads us down the garden path. It's not a Pro device, but in a weird way, it seems to have turned out to be a very, very capable all-round budget device. Who'd have thought?